Welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, and today is the astrology forecast for March of 2025. And my colleague and friend Justin Crockett Elzie is joining me today for this episode. How you doing, Justin?
Great, Liz. It's good to see you again.
Yes, and it's like an exciting month ahead.
Oh my God, there's so much going on. I'm getting ready. I'm excited to talk about all of it.
Busy. Okay, here we go. So Justin's website is justincrockettelzie.com, and my website is alightpath.com, and we enjoy hearing from you. And this month, the sun is in Pisces, and there's a big party or a pileup going on in Pisces. So Pisces is a mutable sign where we complete projects and tie up loose ends. It's a water sign, so it's a lot about feelings and emotions. And the ruling planets are Jupiter is traditional and Neptune is the modern ruler. And the key word is I imagine. And a few keywords are visions, compassion, dreams, spiritual life, intuitive, psychic, clairvoyance, artistic, and adaptable. And a couple cautions are confused, foggy, short sighted, oversensitive, and fantasy. Do you want to add anything to that, Justin?
um, I think kind of the two that I always jumps out to me most with Pisces is the magical child. It's creative, but there could be escapism there a little bit. So I think that's something that always has to be cautioned about.
Okay, and now we're going to go on to Aries, and I'll let you share Aries with us.
Yeah, so Aries is a cardinal sign, and as a fire sign, it's all about action and innovation. The ruling planet is Mars. The keyword is I am. It is the first sign, and the reason why we're doing Pisces and Aries tonight because there's so much of a mashup this month, this coming month with Aries and Pisces. A lot of planets are starting to move into Aries, so we wanted to bring in both those energies. The key words here for Aries are initiate, new beginnings, self confidence, leadership, active, assertive, empowering, or empowered, or a person that can empower others, and very much warrior energy. Caution, it can be overly aggressive or just the opposite, lack of confidence. And it can procrastinate. There's an element of in the personality, possibly in the shadow side with anxiety, anger, argumentative, or fighting. And one other thing I'd like to add, Liz, if I could, is why these two signs are so important right now because in Jyotish astrology, there's a loose concept about whenever planets go from a water sign to a fire sign, which happens 3 times a year, right? When going from Cancer to Leo, Scorpio to Sagittarius, and of course, as we're talking about today, Pisces to Aries. That they always talk about how when you mix water and fire, you get steam. And the concept in Vedic astrology is called Kadanta. And there's 3 types of Kadanta, one related to the ascendant, one to the planets and that. But it's just something to kind of keep in mind about, we're ending the last sign of the zodiac, starting the first sign of the zodiac again. And any planets that go from water to fire and back and forth, as we're going to see today, can create some tension, and something really to pay attention into about how our emotions are with the Pisces versus our assertiveness or action with the fiery Aries. So I think this is, if we're talking about transition of signs, this is one of the most important things to think about. That this is what we call a spiritual knot, or a lot of karma associated when we go from water to fire signs.
Yes, a lot of dancing between Pisces and Aries is taking place this year, and we're going to share several of those today with you all.
Yeah.
So on March 1st at 12 a.m. Seattle time, the phase of the moon is new moon. It's still in that new moon phase, and the moon's at 28 degrees of Pisces, and the ascendant's 19 degrees of Scorpio, and the midheaven is at 5 degrees of Virgo. So a lot of water energy here with the ascendant and all those planets in Pisces. Do you want to share anything about March 1st?
No, I think you got it covered.
And here I have the one about the Pisces parties. We have Ceres, Sun, Saturn, Mercury, North Node, Moon, and Neptune. And that ascendant is in Scorpio, so that's another water sign. So just emphasizing that water energy.
And we got Mars in Cancer. Can't forget that one either.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So out of bounds planets are when a planet exceeds 23 degrees and 27 minutes declination north or south. And this month, Mars will be out of bounds. Well, it's out of bounds all month and part of next month too. So the moon is out of bounds March 6th through the 10th and the 20th to the 24th. So when the moon's out of bounds, sometimes it could be like an emotional roller coaster, perhaps. What do you think of Mars out of bounds, Justin?
Well, like you said, emotional roller coaster. But we could, when it comes to taking action, which is Mars, right? We could. Well, it's in Cancer, so it can be emotionally rationalizing things. Kind of going outside the bounds of taking action and effort, which is Mars. So it could emotionally rationalize something, even though common sense says don't do it, because Mars is out of bounds. So we're going to take action, and we don't care what other people think. We've emotionally rationalized it. So that's something just to kind of think about. That's kind of one example of how Mars and Cancer could react out of bounds.
Thank you. So we have planets that are moving into new signs. On March 3rd, Mercury moves into Aries. On March 20th, the Sun ingresses into Aries, and that's spring equinox or the Aries ingress. On the March 27th, Venus is going retrograde, so it backs into the sign of Pisces. And on March 29th, Mercury is retrograde and it backs into the sign of Pisces. So we talked about that Pisces to Aries and Aries back to Pisces. So that's two examples right there. And then on the 30th of March, Neptune moves into Aries. So a lot of action at the end of the month, especially. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, as we'll see, and maybe I should bring it up here so I don't forget to mention that that it takes this will be the last time that Neptune will be in Aries for the next 151 years, and we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So planets stationing retrograde or direct this month are March 1st. Venus stations retrograde through April 12th, and it stations at 10 degrees of Aries. And the pre-shadow phase was from January 23rd, and that should be March 1st, not March 3rd. I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. Then the post-shadow phase is April 12th through May 16th. Then on March 14th, Mercury stations retrograde through April 7th at 9 degrees Aries. So they're within 1 degrees of where they station retrograde. So that's pretty interesting. And the pre-shadow phase is March 1st through the 14th, and the post-shadow phase is April 7th through the 26th. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Justin?
No, I think you got that covered. That's all really good.
So I'll let you jump into this March 1st through the 12th slide we have here.
So we like to look at the weeks of the month and kind of what's going on with those planets throughout the month. So for March 1st through the 12th, Venus stations retrograde, so it's about ready to go back retrograde. It's in Aries, and it's going to be going retrograding. And one thing I want to say, Liz, I'd be curious what you think about this, but I always look at when Venus, which is a planet of affections and desires, and it's, of course, as we talked about on our last show last month, that Venus in Aries is especially in this lunar mansion, is passionate and the warrior type, but now it's going backwards. This is a time to reflect and evaluate maybe our desires and our relationships and our loves, with Venus going retrograde. What do you think?
Yes, and Venus has a hard time in Aries because Air, Venus wants to connect, but the sign of Aries doesn't want you to connect. So it's like it struggles a little bit, and it's going retrograde at 10 degrees. So I think that's the same degree around that Mercury's going retrograde. So very interesting, and I think I mentioned that before.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then the next.
Mercury.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
On the
No, I was going to
2nd
say,
of
and then
March.
yeah, we got the Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and something I want to mention this because we're going to talk about Neptune going into Aries, and it's going to be the last time it's in Pisces for the next 151 years. That we've dealt with all of this. I don't want to say delusion or misinformation or kind of this escapism in the collective, and I think this is the last hurrah here with Mercury, the planet of thinking and communications, conjuncting Neptune and Pisces. And it's a really good time to maybe as we think about it, maybe manifest your dreams. Pisces, the dreams, and Aries is the manifesting, initiating. This could be a really good creative period to manifest your dreams. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
maybe do some new moon manifesting with writing down what you want to release and then release that, either burn it or rip it into a lot of pieces or recycle it, and then write your desires, because this might also help you manifest those. And I don't believe that you have to work on your new moon manifesting on the day of the new moon, because I like to wait till there's a sliver of the moon, which is a day to 2 days after. And then to me, that's the spark that kind of sends your wish out there, or your desire that you want to manifest.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you haven't done that, start working on it and do it.
Yeah. And then, talking about communications and thinking, then we got on the same day, Sun in Pisces, squaring Jupiter in Gemini. So this is, again, this is not necessarily a negative thing, but it does ask us to question maybe some communications, because Jupiter is in the sign of communications in Gemini, and now it's, again, Jupiter tends to inflate what it's hitting, and we got a square here with the Sun. So this may be the time when we learn in the media that maybe somebody was lying about something, or maybe part of the collective will finally wake up to something. You never know here. But what do you think about Sun in Pisces squaring Jupiter?
Well, it's like, if you're being realistic, your desires that you put out there might manifest in a bigger way. But if you're in fantasy land and in the fog, it might be an issue that you have to really work through. So,
Yeah.
try to, maybe take some time to meditate, or take time to yourself and just work through it and see, is this real or is it illusionary?
Yeah. And then I like the next three. On the third, Mercury ingresses into Aries, the planet of communications and thinking, into Aries. And on the fifth, Mercury and Aries sextiles Pluto and Aquarius. And then on the seventh, Sun Pisces trines Mars in Cancer. So this is, if I had to summarize these three, I said, wow, Mercury ingressing into Aries is the innovator. It's about, new ideas, new thinking, or initiating something there. Mercury and Aries sextiling Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto's there, kind of changing how we think and helping Mercury to be the innovator there. And then, of course, Sun in Pisces is trining Mars in Cancer. So I think this is definitely, again, some taking action based on some intuitive stuff here, and emotions, and maybe also doing something with the family or anybody else that you would think is family at that particular period. What do
Well,
you
that
think?
Mercury in Aries and it's sextile to Pluto, it's like maybe you can look at whatever has been buried deep, maybe within you, that needs to be revisited, and talk about it, write about it, seek a counselor. It's like you might be able to see it in a whole new way, come at it from a different angle.
Yeah. And then near the end of the week, we got Mercury conjuncts Venus and Aries, and we already know Venus is retrograding right now. So then we may have started something innovative, but now here we're maybe again reflecting or evaluating how it may look to others with this. And then of course, Sun conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Again, we keep our goals that we are dedicating ourselves to something greater here than ourselves with the Sun with Pisces, and maybe just a little bit paying attention as the end of the first week comes up to what may be some obstacles or what didn't work during the first week in March.
That sounds great. And then we have the Virgo full moon, which is a total lunar eclipse at 23 degrees of Virgo, 57 minutes. So it's almost 24 degrees on March 13th. And we have quite a few aspects. I'll let you go ahead and jump in.
Well, I was going to say, I know that we're going to do a big show on this later on, just to let folks know. But I think, one of the things that jumps out to me with this chart, Liz, and I'd be curious, with that South node in Virgo for all of us this year, we're purging, we're improving things wherever that South node in Virgo is coming out. And maybe with this moon going into Virgo, right there, there's a little bit of a dose of reality that comes into place of what we're trying to perfect or improve this year, or purge or heal. And so this is a great healing moon, and one for looking at our darker shadows. It's a lunar eclipse, and I think it may be a little bit darker here, but this is a good time to dive into the wound and to see what needs to be purged or cleaned up, but keeping a positive outlook with the Sun on the North node in Pisces.
Well, yeah, and that moon South node there at Virgo, it's like you might do some self-analysis, but I would say be compassionate of how you do that. But you might really be able to work through some past wounds, but don't become overcritical would be the caution.
Right. There can be a little bit of coldness and exacting or perfection a little bit with that moon there.
And you might have done a lot of work on it, but it kind of raises its head again to work through it a little bit more, to release. And then we have the moon is trine Uranus. So, some change that can occur. So maybe looking at some past things in our lives we can again look at it from a different way, in a different way or a different perspective. And it's like, it just doesn't have the weight or the charge that it used to have. I can release it. I don't have to forget it, but I can release it.
Well, the other thing I might say about this, because we are looking at a chart for the collective here, anytime the moon aspects Uranus, this is a little bit of unusualness here. And so we may see people doing some really unusual stuff at this particular period of time, since the moon is trining Uranus. And so some people, I think the moon is out of bounds on this one still. And so this could accentuate that quite. So it's a good time to pay attention to our emotions during this moon.
Well, and I'd almost say be uniquely you and be okay with it. And then we have
just don't try to go up to the roof and try to jump off and fly because you think you can.
No, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Or you go out and you strip the whole side of the house because you think you're going to be able to paint it in one day. There's a little bit of unusual behavior with the moon trining Uranus there. So just be careful of how we're emotionally reacting to maybe some things during that period.
And then the Sun conjunct Saturn, North Node, and Neptune is sextile to that Uranus. So what would you say about that?
Well, again, I think they're going to accentuate some escapism a little bit, or ideas, or creative ideas. I think it's a good thing for creativity. Just keep yourself grounded.
And this is this aspect that we have here, this pattern is called Thales, correct? I think that's what it's called, Thales. And so, you do the work of the opposition, and you work through it, and then you can reap the rewards of the trine and the sextile, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, when we talk about point of Thales, the concept is about completion of a cycle. And I love that you brought this up with the lunar eclipse, because lunar eclipses always portend the end of cycles. And so if we're looking at Thales, which is an algorithm that is supposed to combine, I think, at least 4 aspects. But as you said, it starts with the opposition, but working through conceptually is about completion of a cycle of something. So,
and it'll bring about some change for sure.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So, anything more about this? But we will be back with another show, Justin and I, on this in a couple weeks. So, we look forward to having you. Okay, from March 13th through the 23rd, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, this is the second week of March. So as we go into the second week of March, of course, we've got that lunar eclipse right at the beginning of the week. Don't let it upset you. Just take some easy time and be easy on yourself in the beginning of the week. On the 14th, Sun Pisces sextiles Uranus and Taurus, and Mercury stations retrograde at this point. So here we got the communication thing. I need to go backwards. Then on the 19th, the Sun conjuncts Neptune and Pisces. This is huge because this will be the last time that the Sun conjuncts Neptune in Pisces until 2176. That's about 51 years in the future. None of us will ever see the Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces again. So kind of an interesting thing. We as astrologers, we look at books sometimes and we see what somebody's written about the Sun conjunct Neptune, and we can maybe close the chapter on this after this generation, because there'll be nobody else left being born with the Sun conjunct Neptune after this generation. But I think it's kind of interesting because it's really kind of where the collective comes together in harmony when Sun conjuncts Neptune. And then the Sun on the 20th, which is our spring equinox, Aries ingress. Sun gets into Aries, we start a new year. And then on the 21st, Venus in Aries sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. And then the 22nd, Sun conjuncts Venus in Aquarius. As we know, it's still retrograding at this point. So again, some changes happening as we move into the Aries sign, the sign of Aries, and then Sun in Aries sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. So a lot of change, even right after, I think, Liz, after we move into the Sun in Aries and after the ingress here. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I just wanted to reiterate about the Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Every year the Sun and Neptune will conjunct, but it will not conjunct in the sign of Pisces, just to make that clear. It'll be in Aries for several years, and then it'll be Taurus. So it'll take a long time before it comes back to Pisces.
Right. That's what I hopefully I didn't. I said that. Hopefully I thought I apologize. No, it's Sun in conjuncts Neptune in Pisces for the last time in our lifetime in this generation. So I was talking about closing out the chapter on anybody that's writing about what Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces looks like. Of course, we know Neptune rules Pisces.
Well, and again, Pisces is the 12th sign, so it's the end, and Aries is the first sign. So it's like, this big transition point, even though Neptune will back into Pisces later in the year, just for a brief time, for a couple months at the end of the year, I think, for a couple months. So
yeah, I don't know what you think, Liz, but for me, it just feels like the whole collective is finishing a cycle, and we're starting all over again with Neptune and Aries.
Exactly. And yes, this huge new beginning, this restart, this restructuring, this creative initiative happening. And the first eclipse is on the 13th. The second one is on the 20th. No, it's on the it's later, sorry. And so it's like almost the whole month of March, because I always think a couple weeks leading into an eclipse, and then the 2 weeks between the eclipses and 2 weeks after. So that's a 6-week period that it's like a lot of things changing, because in eclipses, a lot of things shift and change that sometimes we don't see coming. And it doesn't mean they're bad, because a lot of them can be very good, but it's just a lot of shifting and changing. So it'll be interesting, when we get to April or mid-April, to see what has all shifted and changed for
Right.
us personally and collectively. So is there
Agree.
anything else you want to talk about on this slide?
No, I think you got it covered. I agree.
Okay, and then here we have the Aries ingress or spring equinox, or the new year, basically. And I'll let you start with the aspects.
Well, yeah, we as you said, we got that whole party going on down there at the bottom, and something Liz, we've talked about Ingress charts before, and for those folks that are wondering, that Ingress charts are very important as far as a look ahead to the collective, what's going to happen. And in astrology, as we know, that if the ascendant in an Aries Ingress chart, and it's based on location. So this is a location for the west coast of the United States for the next 6 months, because the ascendant is a mutable sign of Sagittarius. So then when we look at this chart, we look at that all these planets. There's that party you're talking about, that stellium down in the third house in the Aries Ingress chart. So this kind of gives us some idea coming up here for the next 6 months, that a lot of people on the West Coast are going to be focused on a lot of third house issues from a mundane astrology perspective. So transportation and communications, a good time, good creative time for Hollywood and people on the West Coast. And of course, we're going to see some transportation stuff come up. We already know that Congress is wanting to get rid of California's pollution air laws around cars. So that's part of those. Some of that's all those planets there in the third house. And so, yeah, I think it's pretty important, this chart. We've got that Saturn, North Node, Neptune, Sun, Venus, Mercury, all conjunct there, and they are trining. The moon trines that Sun, Venus, and Mercury. And what do you think about that?
Well, that's in a good aspect. It's it's already come to full, so it's waning, and so it's still releasing. So maybe our emotions will be more under control, or leveling out at this point, I would say, perhaps.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And how you said that the conjunction, it's across two signs, Pisces and Aries. And so you can see how the energy is moving from the Pisces party to becoming an Aries party. And this new creative endeavors are happening for everybody.
Yeah.
And the third house also rules siblings too, and our neighborhoods or our community. So, we might become more active in our communities, in our neighborhoods for something. Or maybe when we go on a walk, we take a bag and pick up trash. I don't, it could be very simple. It can be a depth, but it can be simple.
Yeah. And then, I'm looking at that Jupiter, which is in the sixth house, and from a mundane astrology perspective, represents unions and workers and health, and it's opposite the moon in Sagittarius, which is in that 12th house, and the moon represents kind of what everybody, the collective, maybe on the West Coast, is thinking about. So it definitely looks to be some legal stuff over unions, possibly, but a focus on the common working man with this Aries ingress, probably for the West Coast there, and really focus on kitchen issues, economically. And then I love how the Mars in Cancer there is in the 7th house. And again, focus on a little bit of focus on our emotions and relationships, but it's squaring Chiron. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's like pushing us, that Mars is pushing that Chiron to work on our wounds, and to have healing. Or, if we've been thinking about teaching something or sharing with other people, it's, really pushing us in that direction to do that. Because it's like wants to, it's creating friction and agitation. So
Right.
to do those things, I think. What do you think?
Well, again, I know, and I should have mentioned at the very beginning, you and I are going to do a big, and somebody else is coming on with us. We're going to do a big English show. And so we'll talk about this chart more in depth. I did want to point out that to keep a watch on the National Guard units for the Western states with that Mars in the 7th house there. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for firefighting and other things on the West Coast.
And then that sun is trine Juno, and next to the sun we have Venus. So, there could be reestablishing how we partner with people and our relationships with others. Venus is a little uncomfortable, like I said before, in Aries. So, how do we partner when Venus and Aries doesn't really want to partner, but it's, asking us, maybe to upgrade or work on our relationships to that they're deeper, or that you spend more time with people or talk to them, something.
Right.
What about you?
Well, I love that, and I love how you pointed out Juno there. It's that first degree of Sagittarius, right? The struggle of civilization and philosophy and beliefs. So it's, and you and I've talked about the moon in the 12th house, the difficulty of that. So it definitely seems to be some emotional issues that we're going to be working out with our, psychologically with our relationships, I would say.
And then the Mars is sextile to Uranus and trine to Saturn. So anytime Mars and Saturn are in a relationship with each other, even though a trine is usually flowing, I always think of the gas pedal and the brake, because it's like, Mars wants to take off and Saturn's like, slow down, slow down. And so it's like, are they making dust or spinning out? And then Chiron or Uranus is involved there. So Uranus wants them both to make some changes, maybe for Saturn to open up a little bit and Mars to slow down a little bit, and Mars is kind of slow in Cancer anyway. So
well, yeah, and that I always find that Mars, and when it, especially if it's in a sextile or trine, or even square, any aspect with Uranus, there's going to be some reactionary risk taking involved, possibly, right? So something to be aware of during this 6 months, about how much risk that we're taking emotionally with our money and everything else there.
Yeah, so maybe like listen to Saturn a little bit if you're going to invest in something risky, because
Right,
Mars is like, let's
exactly.
go for it.
Right, Uranus and Taurus, right, with Mars in Cancer. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say about this, or we can
No,
go on
but
to the
I'm
next thing?
excited to talk about, because we're going to look at for our Aries English show, we're going to look at not only the world chart, right, in this, but we're also going to look at the East Coast and the West Coast more in depth on our show, right?
Yes, we're going to do it a little different this time because we have people watching from all over. So I kind of think of the universal time or Greenwich time as a world chart. And then since we're in the United States, and it affects Canada too, because they would pretty much share the same one for the East Coast of what might be happening for basically North America, we could say, or
Right.
at least United States and Canada.
Yeah.
So now we move on to March 24th through the 28th, and I'll just let you dive in.
Yeah, so here we come to the last week in March, and we're still not done with the crazy stuff, Liz. A lot still going on here. Sun conjuncts Mercury in Aries. And of course, we know this is a Mercury that's retrograding. So again, it's kind of, some evaluation of how we're communicating. Then on the 25th, Mercury in Aries sextiles Pluto and Aquarius. And Pluto, there's been a lot of aspects here with Pluto lately this month, especially with the Aries Aquarius aspects here.
And Mars too.
Yeah, so I'd be curious what you think about that when the Aries and Aquarius are in aspect with planets.
Well, Mercury and Aries. Well, I'm going to back up to the 24th. So that'll be the Sun Cazimi Mercury for most of that day. So
Right.
that's always a good time to communicate and work on, maybe it's, think, strategize on a writing project, or send out a blog post, or write a newsletter, those kind of things. Because that Kazemi, it's like it's helpful. And even though Mercury is retrograde, when it passes the sun, I always feel like the Mercury retrograde energy shifts at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's still Mercury retrograde in the pre and post shadow that are involved, but it just shifts that energy. And then Mercury and Aries sextile to Pluto. I think writing and communicating whatever's coming to the surface, it needs to be addressed. But Mercury and Aries might be short with their words, so maybe try to not be short or angry. It's like, let it come to the surface, or talk about it in a kind way if you can.
Right. Right. Yeah, I just was pointing out this is on every week something sextiling Pluto and Aquarius from Aries there. I think Mars was the last one. So on the 26th, we have Mars in Cancer squaring the Chiron in Aries. And, the way I see this, Liz, is that, here we're looking at our emotions in relationship to our wound. And this would be a good time to kind of watch how we're emotionally asserting ourselves and making sure that we're valuing everyone. Every person is of value, no matter who they are. And so that's kind of a caution there. What do you think?
Yes, yes. It's like, it's almost like you could wound somebody easily emotionally at that time, and it's like, be kind, or maybe just not that day. Maybe another day is
Right,
better.
right, right, exactly.
And then
And
on the
then,
27th, I have a
yeah,
typo here. It's Venus retrograde re-enters Pisces, so it ingresses in there, but we have a little typo there. Sorry about that.
but I like that. It's a little bit of ire there. It is. It's kind of something to pay attention to. And then on the 29th, we've got the second eclipse of the month. Of course, whenever there's a lunar eclipse, then we have a solar eclipse. And again, it's a portends ends and beginnings of cycles. We got the solar eclipse with the Aries new moon, 9 degrees Aries at 3:58 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then last but not least, boy, we go out of the month with a bang with Neptune ingressing into Aries. What do you think? What's your takeaway that you would give people for the month, Liz?
Oh, I would say, be kind and considerate to each other. Pack your patience. Allow time for you to work through anything that comes up, and whether that's to have a walk, time to meditate or pray. It's really important to do, um, to not overload yourself. Even with Mercury retrograde, I don't like to pack my schedule. I try to lighten up my schedule during Mercury retrograde, because it seems like there's a lot of information coming in. Um, and just be great to yourself. What about you?
Right. Well, I say it's a great time to start new projects this coming month. Just be careful of getting caught up in the rat race with all that Aries energy, and just stay an even keel. Treat everybody with kindness, including yourself with compassion, and just take her as she comes during this month, and not try to get too caught up in the rat race and all the craziness going on.
Well, and with the energy moving from that Pisces to Aries, I would say, instead of going with the flow, we're go, go, go.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, just kind of watch the emotions there, because the Kadanta, the spiritual knot between water and fire, there can be a steamy month. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, big change.
Yeah.
So Justin has a quote for us, and I'll let you tell us.
Well, actually, I picked this quote. I'm going to tell the crowd here because of Liz. This is something Liz is always saying. She likes to inspire and empower others. That's a little bit of a Aries Capricorn energy there a little bit. If you don't like the road you're walking, start paving another one. And this is from Dolly Parton. And I thought, since we were, this is a month of new beginnings, and if you don't like the way the road's gone so far this year, March is going to give you a chance to start paving a new one.
I love that because I always say if you don't like it, start making changes now. Don't wait.
Right. Exactly.
So Justin and I both do consultations in person and on Zoom. We both have newsletters, YouTube channels, and social media. So we appreciate you subscribing and following us. And we would love to do a consultation with you. Just contact us and we can schedule that. And upcoming podcasts include Justin and I doing the monthly forecast like we're doing today, the full moon forecast, the Chiron asteroid series. And I've been working on 2025 astrological highlights, and there's still a few more shows to complete for that. And then we're going to have magical astrology with Robert Passetti soon. And then the Astrology Star Sisters do Chinese astrology, decans using astrology and tarot, dwarf planets, fixed stars, planet stationing, Uranian astrology, and the Venus star point. So there's lots of variety for you to choose from, or watch it all if you like. We love it. And then
Awesome.
Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on March 30th, talking about the solar eclipse in Aries, and it empowers now. And Justin, you can go ahead and talk about yours.
Yeah, and so an easier way for people to find me is to get a hold of me is through my email at justin.elzie@gmail.com. And you can also find me on YouTube under Astrological Yogi and all the mini shows that I'm a part of.
Thank you. And I want to take a moment here to thank all those that are watching live and those that come back and watch later on. We appreciate you and we enjoy the support. And then again, Justin's website is justincrockettLZ.com and my website is alightpath.com. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And we're going to say goodbye for now. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye, Liz.